Roundtable. Go ahead. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now that's the final session here. We have a roundtable. We have, I hope, a very interesting discussion here. So my name is Wolfgang Heimbach. I'm still a board member of the COGD, the Component Obsolescence Group Germany, and also board member of the International Institute of Obsolescence Management. So that's what I do, and I would like to start with Stephanie, just a very short introduction. Who you are and where you are.
Thanks a lot, Wolfgang. Yeah, my name is Stephanie Kölbel. I'm working for TQ Systems. We're an E2MS provider, and I'm responsible for the complete component engineering, the obsolescence management, and also as director of the business unit TQ Embedded.
Thank you. Then I want to continue with Tammy.
I'm Tammy Max. I work with Accurus. I'm responsible for their technical content, and I am from Phoenix, Arizona.
Thanks a lot. So I would like to continue with Holger.
Yes, my name is Holger Krümme. I'm CEO of Alter Technology HTV, a test house for electronic components.
Thanks a lot. And then Hans Görg.
I'm Hans Görg. I'm the managing director of AMSYS GmbH. Yes.
And Rob and Frank.
Hi everybody, I'm Rob Pickin. I'm Senior Vice President of Digital Transformation and Partnerships at Sourceability.
Yeah, my name is Frank Meyer. I'm a Business Development Manager for the Seeker Group, and I think that's it, and looking forward to all the questions and discussions.
Good. So let's start with the first topic. We have 3 topics. The first one is, where do you see the next obsolescence challenge? And I think that is a good question for Rob. Where do you see the next challenge for obsolescence?
Thanks, Wolfgang. So jumping straight in, one thing that we do at Sourceability is try and help customers to put systems and processes in place to mean they don't have to rely upon individual people all of the time. I think one of the biggest problems that we're going to face worldwide, and as an industry and as obsolescence practitioners, is personnel and knowledge obsolescence. I think it's relatively easy to make redesigns and recertifications. I realize there's more to it than just hand waving. But I think when you realize that all of those things need to be done by people, currently we're going to discuss AI later, and the educational system doesn't produce enough engineers, we're an aging population, the age of engineers is advancing. I think personnel and knowledge obsolescence will be a significant problem for us, and I don't think anywhere in the world is doing a particularly good job of addressing that.
So what is your opinion, Frank?
Well, I think it's a little bit like mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the most beauty in the land, means everybody is quite sure that it will happen. The problem is to see who's responsible for that and in which line it will be the starting point.
Yeah, right. Stephanie, I mean, you are a manufacturer, right?
Yeah.
You build a lot of stuff. So, I mean, obsolescence is daily business for you. So what are your challenges for the future?
Yeah, we have the same challenges as Rob already mentioned. You need a lot of traineeship, I would say, to get the right specialists to work on the topics, and also the quantity we have to face. So it's really more and more important to make a digital process, to make an automated process, to be able to proceed all these quantities of different changes and discontinuations.
Okay, thanks a lot. Now, Tammy, you are the one that provides data. So, when I look at all the data that are on the field, what is your experience? What are the customers are looking for? So it's still I want to know in 5 years as obsolescence or is end of life. Is there any change in the data they request from you?
There is a lot of change in the data. A lot of that's being driven by current legislation changes, right? So sustainability is a big concern, and so customers are talking to us about sustainability. Still not sure how that's going to be tracked. There's a lot of different camps. We've had discussions here at Electronica with a lot of people, companies working on sustainability, carbon emissions, and it's kind of new. I mean, it's still undecided the exact appropriate way. If I can tell you the carbon emission of a semiconductor component, how am I going to tell you where it's shipping from and who's shipping it, and do I need to calculate DigiKey in there, or do I need to calculate Avnet in there? So and is that transportation going to be included in my CO2 total that I report? So reporting hasn't been defined, and I think, so that's one of the things customers are asking us for. The second one, and probably more apparent, is PFAS.
Oh, okay, PFAS. Well, I think that's really something that hurts.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is now for you, Holger, I mean, you do long-term storage, right? So what do you see as the challenges for the long-term storage when the customers realize, oh, the products that I have stored in your company are no longer compliant?
Okay, this is a really interesting question.
But sorry for that one.
No. I think let me first come to your former question. I think it's a real big challenge at the moment regarding the political situation.
Yeah.
I think we should bring it to this level at the moment because, yes, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, the situation can change immediately so that products would become obsolete, which we never thought about. So I think everybody, every industry should be aware of this and should have a shortened stock for this, not for the long term only, but also for the next month.
Also for short term, yes, for the next month, because you never know what happens, right?
Yes. And regarding the compliance, yes, it could happen that maybe because parts become not any more producible, or you have legal restrictions. At the moment, we have normally a certain time frame where you can use your products also for the future, and it could happen, yes, but we have to look for the actual political situation. It never happens at the moment, so hopefully it would not happen for the customer, because the parts are not our parts, and if the problem would occur, that is a problem mostly of the customer. Yes.
Yeah. And finally, Hans-Georg, I think that's the problem when you look at the obsolescence management processes within the companies. So what we see currently, and I think we all have the same opinion here, is from the classic obsolescence, a company is not providing the part anymore. We come to a situation where the legal requirements, where embargoes, where import restriction, I mean, just look at United States, they say, you are not allowed to bring a car in my company where this chip from this company is in there. So what are the challenges on the obsolescence management inside the company?
So, yeah, as I pointed out also in the presentation, I think the challenges is to really transfer the information in time, and I think one of the biggest challenges also to not see obsolescence management isolated in any ways. It needs to be integrated with many other things. And as Rob pointed out, the human obsolescence management, besides the political one, is the biggest challenge. So human resources come in place here in the obsolescence management. So I think to integrate that in a better way than we see right now will be, I think, the key. It is not an isolated thing which is taking place somewhere in the purchasing or in the engineering, wherever it is located. It should be brought out there on a higher level.
Okay, good. Thanks a lot.
I just want to add a point to the topics Holger mentioned, because that has some more challenges as well into the companies. Because, for example, when there is a change, very often the MPN stays the same, but we have to do an internal revision for these components when they change to start the testing process. And of course, then you have to divide the stock, and you have to be very fast to proceed the information, and also have more stocking area, because then you can't put it in the same shelf as before, before you haven't tested it and approved it. So also for the colleagues from the stocking area, it has so many more influence, and especially for the ERP system, because you need all the batches in your system that you absolutely know, okay, these are with the old material, and then the batches with the new material that you can, in the worst case, destroy some of them. So the SAP has to keep all this information, and you have to put it in the system manually or automatically.
Yeah, so what we hear now also from all the comments, obsolescence management is definitely something you can just do on a Friday afternoon. It is a very, very complex task, so you need data, you need processes. That's what I always say, It needs process, it needs data, it needs strategies like long-term and short-term storages. It's need, but also companies that help you to maybe to find those parts somewhere else. And also you have to mingle this together with all those legal requirements and the political developments. You have no idea what's coming up there. And when we look at what is the kind of estimated end of life. I mean, if a government says from next Monday on you are not allowed to bring those things into country, there's no estimation that you can do. I mean, that's just there, right? And then you need data management, everything to find out where do I use these parts. So I think that the next topic, or this is a very specific one, is we know we have to live with cybersecurity, right? So I mean, everybody has a computer. Everybody has those smartphones and you get all those spams. I don't know whether you know there's an European Cybersecurity Act. And when you start reading this, you get you get pale. It's very, very difficult. So, and in particular, when we look at the firmware development, and that's good that you sit on the right side, because that's a challenge that you have as well. So you, Stefan, you just not have the challenge of hardware obsolescence, you have the cybersecurity as well. So how do you deal with in TQ with that one?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's also a great question for the complete market, because to be honest, at the moment I haven't seen somebody who says, I have the right solution. You just can permanently check and keep the combination of the hardware and the software in mind, and always test, are my components really safe? Are they secure? Because safety is a topic as well that is relevant for obsolescence management as well. So you have permanently to check, and you absolutely need some more costs and hours in the development department to integrate it and to make your product secure. But I think it's really hard to say there's really a recipe to take the firmware, the board support package, everything you need on your boards, really available for many years because of the Cybersecurity Act.
Right, and I think the challenge there is there as well that, sometimes you have firmware in the parts that you buy, and you don't know what's in there.
Yeah, these we can't influence, and very often it's also done by the customer, and then just we have to trust that it works and that the customer takes response for all these topics, and we just can integrate it. So it's we have to be flexible. We have to check all the latest information of the Cybersecurity Act, but a hard topic to handle.
Yeah, Frank, is this also a challenge for your company?
In general, it's I think a question of the projects you get to, and on the other hand, of the idea what is cyber security in general and what does if affected by these. So there's also a lot of companies thinking maybe I'm secure, but linking the financial system with the web platform because it's a little bit more easier. Also, if you're looking for banks and so else, and they is really surely linked, because for the internal processes and external process, and you want really get sure you have physically fix off and cut the lines. So it's maybe a little bit more difficult. Then it's a question of the USB part again, so you can put it and link it in that. But it means if you're talking about security and even of the Security Act, actually for medical product or something else, and you get influence over the body, over the person. Think about that, maybe his car, his whatsoever part, and you have to do a little bit more consulting to the customer or with the customer together in a discussion base, and to make somebody clear what happens if you do that not take into consideration.
Absolutely. So I don't want to drive with my car on the Autobahn, and especially the German Autobahns are driving more than 120 kilometers, and then somebody takes over the control over my car.
Yeah.
And I don't like that.
Yeah.
Therefore, so Holger,
yes,
from your point of view.
Let me say something about this topic. Since we are part of the TÜV Nord group since 1.5 years, and I learned a really interesting thing, because we here in Germany or in Europe are able to to have to give the security or to prove the security of the parts or cybersecurity by certain certification, proving against certain standards. So it's important to have these standards available, to have these measures available, to make the parts or to have a certification for the parts, for the software. And is to have also for the customer the possibility to decide, is this a computer system which is secure, or what is the actual situation of the board in relation to any other parts from far away? Yeah.
Okay, Tammy, when we look at the data, you know, you have components, they have firmware in it. Is there any way that you also start to provide the data of the firmware inside? It's a difficult question maybe, but...
It is, and to be honest, I didn't hear about the EU Cybersecurity Act until I got the little sheet of topics, and so I'm like, oh, what is this? I think it's possible to get the manufacturers to share that data. You know, we pull all of our data directly from data sheets or manufacturer specs. So it's something that they would need to share with us or certify, you know, provide certification on the devices that have firmware. And if it's available, then absolutely we would provide that for you guys.
Right. Maybe just a few comments for those that are not familiar with the EU Cybersecurity Act. So what the EU Cybersecurity Act means that you have to design your systems safe against cyber risks and so on. And this is in particular for the so-called critical infrastructure. So when we talk about power distribution, when we talk about public transportation, everything that belongs to that one, also mobile networks, for example. But of course, it finally ends up in your smartphone and what happens there. And I mean, we have in the past, we had incidents where the firmware of a hard drive was infected or was built in a way that you have a backdoor. And that's exactly the point. The EU Cybersecurity Act says you have to provide measures that the systems that you build are safe against attacks using backdoors, built-in backdoors, things like this, and therefore it's very difficult. And then that's a question again for configuration management, right? So what would you approach for the cybersecurity and the configuration management?
Yeah, it's not only from configuration management, but I think the most benefit of this act is that it brings this topic into the organization as a topic, because it isn't on that level where it should be. Because if we see how systems are designed today often, and how the understanding of managers is often about security, I hope with this act that this is something that is going to improve dramatically, because it is highly needed to do that. Because I want to give only one example. So I was talking to somebody who says, okay, how secure is your system? And says, oh, it's not connected to the internet. And then we were talking about maintenance, and he said, oh, and I asked, okay, how do you maintain it? How do you provide updates of this software? I was saying, I was asking, is there every time when you have an update, is somebody coming and giving you a CD or an USB and you plug it in? No, we do it remotely. But the system is not connected. This is the level of understanding we still have into this point, and I hope this is going to change dramatically. Yeah.
Yes. Rob?
I was going to say, one of those things that comes out of the Act, obviously it's for good reasons with good intent. And you read about things like people install a home heating system, the company goes out of business, and the heating system gets remotely bricked. And that's not really a bad thing that's happening from someone who's trying to break your system, but it shows that that's possible. And people now have like smart fridges, and anything's connected to the internet, so it can be a significant problem. But I think the unintended consequence there as well is that you're actually going to get a lot of obsolescence practitioners who suddenly realize they're incredibly valuable, because the skills that they've developed in reacting to problems and building resilient systems and working on long-term storage, for example, the actual problem that's caused by obsolescence is the same kind of resolution criteria of other things. So just because something's no longer available and you have to think about cybersecurity when you're designing new systems, you suddenly can't use other resolution criteria. Well, that's something obsolescence practitioners have been managing for 20 or 30 years. So I think they're suddenly becoming very, very valuable, and their knowledge is suddenly very, very employable in kind of practically helping this act, as you say, Hans-Georg, where it's now in the public eye. It's bringing it out from like theory on a page in the back of a corporate handbook right into the front page of a newspaper, and that's actually a really good thing for people in this industry, in this discipline.
Absolutely, and you know, when you believe that you are not affected by this, and maybe you have some of those automatic vacuum systems that cleans your room, they use cloud services. What do you think happens when the company that provides the cloud services for your cleaning robot stops the service? Your vacuum robot will stop service because the layout of your apartment is stored in the cloud. So this is also a kind of obsolescence we have to learn about, that it's not just the obsolescence we don't get a part anymore, but it means we cannot get a specific service like a cloud service, things like this. Now this brings me then, you know, to our overall brain, our artificial intelligence, and of course the next question and the next topic is, how do we use AI in obsolescence management to support our tasks? And so who would like to start with that one? Stephanie?
Yeah, for us, we are working on many projects at the moment for obsolescence management based on artificial intelligence, because PCNs are the perfect example. Mostly the manufacturer has a structure he follows, and you can check the complete PCNs and end of lives with AI. And you don't have to use the internal stuff. Of course, we check it again. We don't trust completely on AI, not at the current moment. But you can use it to check the PCNs, to take all the information directly into the ERP system. And at the end, you just have one guy who checks and makes the approval. And then you have the complete information directly in your ERP system. You don't have any copy-paste failures, for example. And you can really save a lot of time.
Right. I will come to this later then, Rob.
Stephanie, the point you raised about accuracy of information is really important, because the biggest problem that we find is human error. The number of, at Sourceability, we don't not only provide data tools and services, we also supply obsolete components and hard to find parts to customers. So the problem of inaccurate information is really, really important. That's something that Tammy can talk about as well, of course. But what we're trying to do is look at kind of metadata analysis as well with AI, to look at where obsolescence notes perhaps aren't released 30% of the time. Tammy, probably something like this. You can correct me if I'm wrong, and please do. Well, how do you help customers to understand what's happening more widely? So with our historical database, we're training our internal AI to look at pattern analysis to say, well, supplier A, historically, when their price list goes up by X in this number of months, lead time goes up by Y in this number of months, and the volume in the market goes down by this % in this time frame, there is usually an obsolescence event within this number of months following that. And that's fairly predictable, because it's driven by business decisions, not just by availability of things. And that's something which is invisible right now. The biggest, I'll be quiet in just a moment, the biggest thing that we've heard this week from all of our customers and suppliers is they want transparency. They realize that there are unavailability issues, and there are supply chain issues, and there's compliance issues. They want that transparency, and that's what we're working really, really hard to bring. It's tough, but we're working on it.
So Tammy, are you using artificial intelligence now to get the data, grab the data out of what the data sheets?
We are, yes. And not only are we doing it with data sheets, we're doing it on our structured data. So we have some RAG models that we are using right now to also help with obsolescence path of finding alternates. So we're going to be able to eventually, I thought it was a pipe dream 5 years ago, but I can say, hey, can you provide me a alternate for an LM327? And it will bring back your alternates. So we're going there. We're almost there. We're in beta with it now. So that is something that we are using with AI. talking with customers this week, I also ran across someone, that's my things. I also ran across a customer who was using AI to scrape data out of images for connectors specifically, and taking that information and being able to say, here's your part number because it's configured this way, and here's your bill of materials, and hey, do you want to build a cable assembly with this information? And they can take that and build a cable assembly, or take a drawing of a cable assembly. When we talk about transferring knowledge, go back through your drawings, pull out your cable assemblies, be able to pull out a BOM, then take that BOM into your system and track that way. So there's a lot of different ideas going on with AI. Analysis is another area that we're using AI, tracking trends, tracking, we have supply chain intelligence where we have the country of origin for fab, manufacturing, packaging, testing, and understanding risk based on that, and leveraging your bill of materials and say, okay, what percentage is manufactured in Ireland versus Taiwan versus China, and doing analysis with the AI because it's a lot of data. So
that exactly, and I mean this is why we have AI to process the data. I come back to you in just a minute. I mean this is the input side. You know, we are talking about PCNs. We are talking about the data that the people need in obsolescence management, and finally to do it. And just to add my experience, in particular for the PCNs, you know, I'm very much working with the smart PCN. Even there, in the creation of smart PCN, AI is used because there's so much training data now, and then it's a good input for your IE systems, because then at least the PCN is clean, yeah, and then it's already data there. But it's an important thing. But you know, the thing is always the same. When we talk to people about data, and I ask the people, how good is your data? You know what the answer is? Well, now our data is not so good. In particular, the historic data is not so good. So Hans-Georg, I mean, you know, we know this famous crap in, crap out. So hopefully artificial intelligence will solve that. So we put in our database in an AI system and bong, everything is clean, right?
Yes, exactly that will happen, yeah. Of course not. Of course not. So, yeah, it's all about the training, the data that you use for training. And if you look at the most popular AI that everybody's using today, ChatGPT, you can clearly see in what topic it is good and in what not. The more specific some data is, and also when it comes to politics, it starts to get, let's say, not so good. So more general information you have, the better it is. But it needs to be carefully. And I see also the aspect, what do you expect from an AI? I see it also from the point as a software engineer, from the engineering of software products. And there are many people that are saying, okay, we will not have to develop software anymore in the future, because the AI will do that for us. Have you ever tried to generate a piece of code with an AI? It's working, but it's so shitty code that you should not use it, because then the EU Security Act or cybersecurity will come. It's working. It will produce something, but the information, the quality of that is doubtful. So I think, in general, it can be helpful, and the idea of having the most benefit of an AI type, as you see, is how we interact with the systems. We interact in another way, which is more people-centric. We can ask questions. We can refine our questions. We can interact with the machine in a total new way, and the machine can answer us in a way that we can, it just not spit out an Excel sheet that we have to move, but it gives us an answer on that point. So I think in the future that can be very, very helpful to automate, to speed up our process, but we should not expect that it solves our basic problems.
Right. I think the training is the big problem. So as you put out, when I can get general information, even the data sheets, I mean, that's publicly available, so I can really attract or can put it to artificial intelligence. But the thing is, of course, the AI doesn't know your internal data, and therefore how to clean up the data, and I think that's the problem. So how do you want to use AI for obsolescence management in your company?
Yeah, I think it's maybe a very nice tool. Ask directly how to crack my system. So that would be the first answer I give. I use the software to test myself, my customer systems, and what is to do. Ask him and reformulate the question and do it in different ways. And then let him reformulate the answer or the question until you get the right answers. And they will answer, or the system will answer and tells you how to crack the system or how to crack your customer systems. And as a reaction, it gives you the answer what is to do.
Yeah, that's perfect.
For that, I think it's a very, very helpful tool. It's maybe a different approach, and you have to discuss it with some engineers, which are very critical. But if they see what the system will answer, or what is answering, they will be very astonished and say, "Oops!" So we have to do something.
So when we then look at all the brave new world, that what we would see is basically that AI system will help us to forecast obsolescence. It will immediately tell us, well, in 2 months, in 3 months, or maybe in 1 year, this part is no longer available. Even the manufacturer doesn't know it. So I think there's no more need for long-term storage.
I think this artificial intelligence will help to calculate what quantities are needed for the future.
That's
I think
a good point.
yes,
Right.
because I think we have a lot of different scenarios, the data, historical data about shortage of parts, allocations, and so on. I think the AI knows very good what is the actual situation, what will be maybe happen for the future, and what are the right quantities if you have similar scenarios in the past. So I believe that will be helpful not to have too many parts on stock and not too low quantities.
So it gives you basically a better estimation,
Yes.
basically what the market from
Right.
all the, I mean from all the world
Yes.
economic data you can maybe estimate.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
Okay, good. Steffi?
Yeah, I think then we go back to the topic of data, because when you have the right data in your system, and for example, you have many clusters in your system for each component, and when you have the right technology, for example, when you add data as a cluster as well, you can directly see, okay, there's a huge amount of discontinuations, changes, and then you can make, as early as possible, a buffer stock of the technologies where you see, there are changes, the number of discontinuations are increasing, so you have a good analysis, and you can also do it internally in your system, and you can react very, very early and start the stocking process earlier, and not just when everybody is ordering or when it's already too late and the technology has already disappeared, and your aviation customer, for example, would need it for 10 more years. So usually I would say AI is even a good combination for long-term stockage.
Great, good. So when we look at AI, then of course the next thing is how do we implement this in our obsolescence management processes? And I just tell you a very funny story. It was a surprise for me as well. So I had at the IOM symposium in the United States, I had a workshop on business, and so how the business case of obsolescence, and I prepared an exercise. I'm not a native speaker, you can hear that. So I said, well, I use ChatGPT to check my text. And then for the exercises, I just put the text into ChatGPT, and it did the exercise. It calculated what is the best approach between maybe long-term storage and last-time buys, and maybe using interposes, things like this, and I was, wow. Of course, there had been faults inside. But those faults that I got from the answer told me that maybe my exercise needs to be more precise. And that's actually then what I did. So how do you think who wants to answer that next one? Maybe Hans-Georg. How do you think when you look at the obsolescence management processes in the future? So how will you make, what do you think, what's the role of artificial intelligence in helping to find the right decisions and the calculation of scenarios?
So I think the AI is, if you look at it from a software engineer perspective, it's hard to talk about AI, but because in the end it's just data processing, when you say, in a very specific way of doing that. And of course, this is absolutely helpful because our main challenge, even with solving obsolescence issues, we have to deal with a huge amount of information in a very short time. And having systems in place that helps me to deal with it and to come to better decisions in a shorter period of time is very helpful. But your example you mentioned before, as long as you can verify the answer, because this is the main question, how can you rely on what the answer is getting? Can you judge if it's correct or not? Because this question still remains. As long as you are the expert in that topic, you can do that. But what if you are not the expert? How can you make sure that you can rely on that information? And I think this is the most important question that needs to be answered. You need to make sure that whatever technology you are using in that area, that the AI, as I say always, is not starting hallucinating and predicting or saying things that and you will not see it. And this is what I also mentioned before with ChatGPT. It's starting to do that in different areas. It always gives you an answer.
Yeah.
But is this answer the right one or not? Yeah.
The AI doesn't tell you that it has been wrong. And I think that's the reason why in your company you still check per person. What's it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Rob, what would you say? I mean, what's the risk of using AI in obsolescence management? Could AI even create obsolescence?
If it gets it wrong, it could do, of course. But I think the real point there is in obsolescence management, it's not going to make the decisions, and nor should it, for the reasons that we've just explored. But I think it's back to the capability, right? You could, if you have to dig a hole to plant a tree, you could dig the hole with your hands. You could do. Or you could use a shovel, which makes it a bit easier, or you could use a digger, which makes it even easier. The point with all those three things is each one is less effort and less time consuming and using the right tools. So the obsolescence practitioners are the right tools. They should be making the decisions. But actually going through, let's imagine you're in the Department of Defense supply chain in the US, or you're in medical devices supply chain where you have various external approvals to go through. If you want to make a change to a design, you have to work through 3 or 4 different resolution criteria and then assess them against each other. Making the assessment isn't the time-consuming part. Putting together the different resolution criteria is. So if you can train a GPT or an AI to make those assessments, you still need a trained, educated person to make the decision, which is really, really important, particularly in case management, because you have to show an audit trail of the process you went through. So I think using it in a completely uncontrolled way, as Hans-Georg points out, is wildly dangerous and should not be done. For the reason you said, the AI is not going to tell you it's made a mistake. It's not going to call you back a week later and give you a better
Sorry
resolution,
for that.
right? But if you use it as a tool, as a working tool, it can of course have huge benefits. But it's the assessment of how those benefits affect your organization and the environment in which they sit that then have to be addressed.
You still have to need the competence, Steffi.
Yeah, but I think AI can also cause obsolescence because of the requirements of the customer. Because at the moment we see it as well. Many customers are looking for CPUs that have or modules that have a GPU and NPU, because everybody wants to be AI ready and to use it. And maybe the demand for the stupid components will decrease, so that many manufacturers will decide, okay, everybody wants AI, so why should we proceed using and manufacturing the old and stupid components that are not AI ready? So I think that could be a really, really big issue for the future as well.
That could be a risk, definitely, yes. Good. So I would also ask now the audience here, do you have questions that should be answered by us here. I mean, we are talking here, we are entertaining ourselves, but I think you have questions as well. So what those are? Come on, dare. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you have some questions. Nope. We don't punish you when you ask a question.
What is the feedback from the audience? How many of you are already using AI in the field of obsolescence management? Can we maybe see a short hand up?
Oh, no. You are
Okay.
using it? A little bit? So I think that's a lot of things now to think about. How to use obsolescence, in obsolescence means AI, for example, but not only the things. What you have heard now, I think, in the discussion is to come now to a kind of a summary. There's a lot of challenges. We have really a lot of challenges. I think one of the main challenges is that we get from all those legal requirements, from material legislation, from PFAS. PFAS is really very, very difficult, but others as well. So that's the one challenge. We have to take into account now cybersecurity more and more. We have this EU Cybersecurity Act, and there are other countries following. I don't know. What's the situation in the United States regarding cybersecurity? If you know it.
So I know there is some requirements around it, but I don't think it's official yet. For us, it's not really been that important because we have a hosted solution. So it's not like our customers are, at risk. Our stuff is protected. We are hosted and have our firewalls and stuff. So it's not something that, as far as the data side, I've had to deal with. I've had to deal more with things like the PFAS, the RoHS exemptions that are going to be going obsolete or they're expiring in the next year with lead, regard to lead. Those exemptions are going away, so that's going to maybe drive some more obsolescence of parts. Right. That's more where we're focused right now, or where I'm personally focused.
Good. So I would like now start a final round for this one, for the whole topic. So Hans-Georg, what would be from your perspective the challenges, your personal challenges in obsolescence management within the next 12 months?
Yeah, I think of course the regulatory is what you have to deal with. But I think I need to come back to that human obsolescence. That is, we are struggling with that, and this will not getting better soon. So this is really how to think how we can replace, not because we want to replace humans by machines, but we don't have a choice then to do that. That is we have to think about automation. How can we automate things better and useful? And yeah, that's the challenge. Yeah.
Frank, what are your challenges within the next 12 months that you see coming on obsolescence management?
Well, I think the challenges, I would agree to Hans-Georg, and that's one of the very most things, because it's expertise, typical expertise, which you cannot see in the balanced scorecard. It's quite difficult. The management isn't on that way. I'm not talking now about ours, of course. No, but we have talked about that, so they are really on the level of what that means. But if you're talking to a lot of other people, or in some universities, you will see how that works. And really some very big companies are always talking that our employees are the most value we have. But at the end of the day, they do not know really what that is. So if some of the major maybe developer changes, you will see what happens. I know you know maybe the story of a student, a female, met in the US, nice guy, third semester legal. Her grandpa was a programmer at a well-known car maker, and he said, your grandpa was that? Interesting, we go to court. And these company had to pay a few $1 million, that they both undersigning that, and that will, I think, because of the much more information we get in this era. Information now, we can questioning AI, ask them anything about, and you get answers, and then we are maybe challenged with that to say, is that real or not? But then you can also programize a string and say, maybe a little bit like in the mathematics, what is real or near real, or maybe what is too far away, and then you can say from the suggestions, then maybe near real is the reality in that case. But and fix that all in these systems, we see that from the obsolescence part, where we will have really, I would say, a lot of discussions regarding these security fields, regarding in our special, I would say, sectors we want to serve this quite the same as you have. So and tell the customer maybe change this, or we would suggest go a little bit that way to more secure, and so that for both it's a valuable business.
Right. So Rob, what do you think? What are the challenges within you for you and for the company in the obsolescence management in the next 12 months?
I think it's going to be unexpected behavior from suppliers. If you look at where the actual production capacity is worldwide and what's being committed to with new fabs, new foundries, the majority of the fabs and foundries have been committed to in Europe and North America is for very small node sizes. It's for new kit, new equipment. But the majority of the demand for high reliability industries, which are invested in by governments a long period of time, that our companies invest in heavily, they rely heavily upon mature and legacy node sizes. And the majority of those are in countries which are about to be embargoed by changes in governments. So I think suppliers are no longer going to back the development of legacy technology. And if they're looking purely at balance sheets and where their forecastable revenue is going to come from, they're going to shut down lines very quickly to use that production capacity in a more effective way for their balance sheet, not necessarily for the customer.
Right. So basically we run the risk that we have everywhere AI systems, but we do not have any more the bread and butter parts. Tammy, what are your challenges?
So our challenges are making sure that data and the AI that we use on data is fed the right information. Garbage in, garbage out was said up here a couple times. So we work heavily with the other product lines that we have. We have standards product line, and then we have an AI group that works specifically on pointing a private AI engine into your documents and have semantic search, so you can search through emails that documented from the man who retired 3 years ago, documented a problem and how they resolved it, so that you can leverage that later. So we have that systems, and we're trying to integrate our product data and replacements, alternates, in with those standards, identifying if I'm pulling up a USB compliant device, that here's my list of USB devices, and bring that in so that they can create digital twins. So we're merging data and our AI engines, but it's not ChatGPT.
Okay,
I think public should be leveraged to help us as a tool, a shovel, and put the heavy work on something that you know is valid.
Thank you, Tammy. Holger, your challenges.
Yes, let me again refer to the actual challenge of the unsureness of the situation politically. We don't know where to go, maybe Taiwan, China, Russia, Ukraine, and this is a challenge for everybody, how to proceed. What about the economical situation? What about the EU Semiconductor Act? Yeah? The companies are disappearing, so it's a challenge for everybody, how to make stocks, how to plan the product, the quantities and so on. You don't know so much, and you have to. The future is a little bit covered more than before in the past. So this is a big challenge, I think.
Right. Good, Stephanie. I started with you. Now you are the one to end it.
Yeah, I think one problem, absolutely, how already mentioned, will be the allocation as a short-term obsolescence, which can return for some components. We don't expect that it will be as worse as we have already seen it, but we expect it for some components. Let's see what the market will bring, and we also see a really big insecurity because of the automotive sector, and we don't hope that the automotive lines from the manufacturers will be deleted. These components that have higher temperature range, for example, which we really need for the industrial and for the European industry with the long-term availability and like medical and aviation, and that we have there a new challenge to find alternatives and new components that can be as long as in the market as the automotive versions.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. So, thank you all. A big applause for all of here, for the experts. Thanks to you staying here now at 1 o'clock, 5 minutes past 1 o'clock, and we have finished now our discussion round and also the component obsolescence day.
Exactly.
Joachim, I hand over
as soon
to
as
you.
my mic's open. 1, 2, 1, 2. Yes, there we are. Thank you very much. Thank you to the roundtable participants, and thank you very much for attending. It was really impressive how many people stopped by once again. I think last time we did it 2018. It was about the same, a lot of people attending with 4 hours of concentrated information. And maybe your brain's like dry or steaming or whatever. But if you haven't had enough, just go. And if you'd like to know more, all these companies that are participating on an obsolescence day at their exhibition stand are in these brochures. And you can stop by and ask them about how they do obsolescence management, or how they support people with obsolescence management, or the other way, just become a member of the COGD, and the best way to test that out is just register for the Quartals meeting or the Q meeting in Cologne on the 3rd of December. There are still open spots there, and if you're a first attendant, it's free. That's important, it's free. So it's not cheap, it's free.
And we will visit also the Christmas market, right?
And we will visit
In
the
the day
Christmas
before.
market, that's free too. And and the dinner on the day before is free too. Okay, no, but anyway, it's a good chance to get in contact with all guys that are members of the COGD, and just go there and stay informed by experts, or just become your own expert in obsolescence management. So thank you very much for attending. Thanks you guys for doing the roundtable, and see you on the next obsolescence day. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you.